welcome to a special edition of the Game Informer Show. I'm Ben Hansen. If you're a new viewer or listener, thank you for stopping by. We hope you like this show. We do this with every cover story that we do, which is every single month here at Game Informer Magazine. And what this is we're wrapping up our month of coverage on Anthem from Bioware by actually Skyping in the game's director up from Bioware himself, John Warner. And so we pulled dozens and dozens of questions from the community that have not been answered yet. We've been doing a whole month of coverage. So throughout the cover story, which is also online, and everything else, we've covered a lot of questions, little things like microtransactions they've answered. So we pulled stuff that in theory they haven't answered yet, and that at this point they're willing to answer, hopefully. So we pulled stuff from the community, and we're going to Skype in John Warner, the game's director, and ask him. So without further ado, here's Mr. Warner. John Warner, welcome to the Game Informer Show, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Oh my God, it's an honor to have you. We've been rolling out a whole month of Anthem coverage. Now we've got the man, the game director himself. I'm excited to have you on this podcast because you have seen the full spectrum of Anthem, which is something that even Casey Hudson, GM of the studio, has not seen. Like, everybody we talked to were like producers that came on relatively late in the project. But what's your history with Bioware? When did you get up there?
Well, first of all, hey, thanks for having me on. I love it. I'm glad to be here. So I started with Bioware about 6.5 years ago. Came here from the Walt Disney Company, Disney Interactive. And so since coming to Bioware, I've worked on Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, Mass Effect 3 The Citadel, and then right on to Anthem.
Congratulations on The Citadel, by the way. That was a hell of a piece of DLC. It's so funny, man. Like, what's memorable about that game, talking about it with people, where it's like, yeah, remember that whole time where they cloned Shepard? It's like, what? No, that was just the DLC where you got drunk with your party. It's like, no, there's a whole storyline in there. It was effing weird, too. It wasn't just good times, goofball crew.
No, it wasn't just good times. There was adventure. There was danger.
It had it all, man. How did you work your way up to becoming game director on Anthem then? Because were you there for, like, the starting days of that project?
I was there with the small team as we were pitching ideas for what Anthem could be. At that point, we were calling it Project Dylan. And so I was lucky enough to be here from the very start. I was Casey's senior producer at the time. And so when Casey transitioned to take that opportunity with Microsoft, they asked me to step in and just continue to run the show.
That's wild. Has it been the most interesting project of your career, the hardest project? How would you compare it to the rest of your work here?
Absolutely. I say absolutely a lot. People are trolling me on Twitter for that.
It's a classic response.
Yes, this is definitely the most complex game that I've ever worked on. But on the other hand, it's definitely been some of the most fulfilling stuff, and it's a game, honestly, that I've been waiting to make my whole career. I really love this game, and I love the subject matter that we're dealing with, and the setting and the characters. I'm in love.
Plus, you have that great co-op experience from your work on Dragon Ball Z Sagas back in the day.
That's right. Cutting my teeth on the co-op brawling experience.
And so much of that carries over directly into Anthem, I'm sure. What was E3 like for you? I'm curious about the team's reaction to the reaction. Were there anything? Did you guys pivot in any way based on any reactions you experienced at E3?
No, to tell you the truth, not really. We were just really gratified to see how people loved it, and watching strangers, people who'd never put their hands on it before, be able to fly and do a bunch of superheroic stuff within minutes of picking it up was really gratifying, and we loved it, and it was very validating for us as well.
Yeah, I think in interviews, people might be spinning too much out of it, but I think some people, Casey kind of left it a little more open-ended in terms of like, maybe we'll add romances down the road. So there weren't any pivots like that where you guys realized like, we should put that back on a whiteboard somewhere.
Well, no, not really. I think that what came out of that was about how we talk about this, because at Bioware, when you say romance, it means a very, very specific thing. And if you remember back to playing Knights of the Old Republic on the original Xbox, you had great relationships there, and there was some flirtatious stuff, and you really felt like you got to know that crew and got to know Bashila. And that's the kind of flavor and feeling we feel suits Anthem the best. Again, we're not going to rule anything out necessarily, but we want to let this thing go out and see what it's like and see how it does.
Yeah, you got to be bracing for that reaction and just knowing that you have to be flexible when this thing comes out the door, and you could have to do a 180, a 360, a 720. I mean, you guys, it's going to be fascinating to see how you guys respond to that stuff.
Do it goofy style.
Yeah, exactly.
I did work on amp, yes. Yeah, I think that when you make a game like Anthem, you have to realize that you create the basic experience, and then once we start sharing it with the community, it's our game together, and responding to what the community wants to see is an important part of that.
Okay, the community has a lot of questions about this game. They have a lot of demands, they have a lot of thoughts, they have opinions, a lot of feelings. I'm sure you guys are still in the center of that maelstrom up there, but we have some questions that we pulled that hopefully you can answer here. Calvin Koskela is just wondering, how deep can we expect the story to be?
Hey, so I think it's going to be... How do you quantify deep? It is a deep story. It's an interesting story, right? It's a story that has classic adventure elements. I think that if what you're asking by deep is it branching like a Dragon Age or Mass Effect 2, where you can take it into all sorts of different areas, it's not as complex as that, because we're making some trades here with a shared world that we're all in together. So we're going a little more shallow on that, but a lot deeper on other aspects.
Yeah, I think from the community's perspective, and at least from our perspective as well, it's challenging because an interview you guys have conveyed, like, hey, this is a Bioware story. It's big, it's epic, it's got this god, it's this unfinished world and stuff. But basically all the details are still in the shadows for us. You say they're going to be good characters, but we don't really know any of the characters. You say there's going to be interesting decisions. We don't know any of the decisions. Yeah. Is there any light you can shed on like your character's role in this world, how he interacts or she interacts with the world around them? Anything of the meat there?
Yeah, sure. And we're going to be talking a lot about the story and the characters that you're going to be with here in the next few months. But in the interim, let me say this. Yeah. You play the role of a type of hero that's known as a freelancer. And freelancers have a history. They go way back. In this world, you can't just stroll outside and take a walk and be in complete safety. It is such a dangerous and volatile world that you can't like pave it over and make roads even. It requires you to have this javelin armor to go out there just to get around and do things, right? So the freelancers have a big history, and they have kind of fallen into disrepute or disrepair, really. And you're now a freelancer, and you're kind of trying to bring back the glory days of what it meant to be a freelancer.
Right.
And you're going to have a crew with you that are also kind of invested in that and go on this journey with you.
Are there going to be debates amongst your crew? Can you give any insight? Like, is your character spunky? Are they going to be voiced? Like anything of that microscope? That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, so your character will be voiced. A lot of the personality that you bring to that story, as far as the actions you take, of course, are going to come from you. Yeah. But yes, you're a brash hero, right? It's kind of one of those situations where sometimes you don't know that something's impossible, and so you do it anyway, right? Okay. That's the type of hero's journey that you're going to be on. And yeah, you have a crew around you, and you're not always in agreement with your crew. There's going to be some conflict there, and that's good because that gives you, the player, the ability to make some interesting and good choices. Is it going to get personal for the player? Will like NPCs be talking to you about your sister back home and all that stuff? Well, I think that you're new to the scene, and that's kind of the trick about telling a good story like this, is we need to put you, the player, and you, the character that you're inhabiting, kind of in the same shoes, right? You're kind of new to this. You're new to this area and this region. And so, yeah, a lot of people don't know your backstory. A lot of people don't have a history with you. And that's what you're going to create, though, throughout the course of the game, are these connections and that history. Okay, gotcha. Back to community questions. We got a lot to get through here. I'm sorry. Darren Donahoe wants to know, was Drew Karpchen initially brought on to write the overall narrative? Like, how much of an impact on this project has Drew had? So Drew had a good impact on the project, of course. Drew was actually part-time in our Austin studio. He had been working on this Star Wars: The Old Republic, and he came over and did some great work for us. Drew was never our lead writer, But of course, with his talent and his ability, he had a good impact on the game.
Okay, fans really love him. I'm sure you guys know that up there.
Absolutely, we do too.
Good. Habibi Gaming wants to know, what do you guys mean when you say simplified dialogue tree? Like, what does that actually look like on the screen? Is it just two options? What does this mean?
So earlier I talked about, branching dialogue and how we're not trying to go as deep in taking the story in different directions as we have in previous games, perhaps. But a simplified interface, what we're always trying to do with all of our games is we're trying to get things to be more elegant, a little more user-friendly, and sometimes less is more. Even our own dialogue wheel that we've used so well was an evolution of what we started with Knights of the Old Republic. So, it's just evolving that mechanic and evolving that interface.
Will players be shocked when they see it for the first time?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Pretty standard. Hey, by the way, since you're there for the full thing, is there a good story about like the history of Anthem as a name itself? How did that come about?
Man.
When did it come about? Is it just focus tested to all hell? Where does that come from?
Yeah, so naming something in today's environment is really challenging. If you think back, like the last time we had to really sit down and name something was when the Dragon Age and Mass Effect era, and at that time there was no App Store, there was no Steam Early Access, right? There's no Google Play. And so right now there are a bazillion names that have been copyrighted, and we went through an exhaustive search to find Anthem. It was horrifying. I never want to do that again. If I have a child, I might outsource their name. Who knows?
I think it's a good name to find something so simple that isn't really claimed by anything else huge. Like, it's pretty unique.
Yeah, it is, and we love it. But it was a long road to find that name.
What was second place?
Let's see here. I think we actually had a list of alternates. Javelin was actually one of them.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, and get it in the game. That totally works. And you have so many things to name in the game too. I'd imagine that's a mess of like, okay, what hasn't Destiny named? What won't be overlapping with them? We have the ghost, but it's a different kind of ghost. I don't know.
Well, yeah, a lot of times, you just, once you get into it, you just kind of have to let your muse be your muse, and you name it what it needs to be named. Yeah. And you sort the rest out later.
Gotcha. Shane Firth wants to know, how often will we see our freelancer's face in cutscenes, or just in the game in general?
So because when you're out of your suit, you are in first person, right? Because we wanted to tell a more intimate story. So seeing your face is going to be something that is more in line with when you look at your pilot in the interface itself in the GUI. But we don't go to a classic, third person storytelling camera. We don't take the camera control away from you. This is going to be a more intimate experience than maybe you've had with us in the past.
Gotcha. Since you guys are working in Frostbite, and I know early on when you probably started working on this project, third person wasn't huge, because it's like even before Dragon Age Inquisition, right? So it wasn't a huge component of that engine as far as I understand from the layman's world. Like, was there ever a time and place where this was an entirely first person game?
We played with making it entirely first person, but when you're doing all these great heroic moves and flying around the world, you really want to see your character doing that. So we opted for third person when you're in your Javelin as the absolute best experience. Yeah. And we played with it a lot.
I can't imagine. Duncan Van Wattingen, gotcha. He says, can you explain more about the changing world and how every time you play the game, the world changes? Is it randomly generated, or is it updated every now and then? I really like the idea of an ever-changing world, which makes playing the game fresh and unique. Yeah, I think this is a big mystery. Like, from our perspective, you guys keep saying that, and it's like, we've seen a storm. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, I don't really understand what that means.
Right. So let's break that down a little bit.
Yeah.
When we say it's an ever-changing world, I'm not talking about changing the actual geometry of the world itself. It's just that, in some games you'll play a game, and every time you come up over a rise or go to a certain area, there's always the same three guys sitting there waiting for you, right? And it's always daytime, and it's always sunny, or it's always rainy, and it's just super predictable. So what we're trying to do with the world of Anthem is add these elements of dynamism to it, where there are going to be different things that appear at the same location when it's based off of different factors, whether it's day or night, or whether it's rainy or sunny. And so there's always an element of surprise that comes to it. And it's all about how you experience that, and not changing the geometry itself, because we want you to be able to do something that is like you traverse it, you retraverse it, and then you master that terrain. And it plays a role in the tactile choices that you're making. It plays a different role. So we want you to get comfortable with the terrain itself, but we always want to have something fresh and surprising there for you.
So like in our interview with Casey Hudson, he mentioned that like ideally he wants people texting your buddies, or texting their buddies and saying like, hey, you got to check out Anthem today. It's crazy. What is he talking about? Is it like, hey, the spider boss is in another cave? Or it's like this half of the world is in a crazy thunderstorm? Or what exactly would that text say?
Right. Well, because we host all of our games on dedicated server, it allows us to play with the different variables in the world. So we might be triggering a big migration of creatures across the world, and so you're going to see a ton more of the Wolven, or you're going to see a ton more of the Ursics, which are those gigantic, I don't know if we've shown those guys yet. They're gigantic ape-like insect creatures, and they're terrifying. So it might be something like that. It could be a gigantic weather event, like a storm, right? We have a bunch of variables that we can play with, and when we trigger them, you'll be able to be there with your friends, and it's like, hey, this is happening. You got to log in.
And in theory, is it like shaper tech as well? Like there's some crazy mountain construction weirdo thing that suddenly turns on for everybody in the shared world?
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that as we go along. But yeah, it could definitely be something like that.
Interesting. Player controlled? I mean, can they trigger any of those weird things?
No, we control that right now.
Okay, gotcha. Original Gamer here is asking, will the outcome of our missions in the shared world affect the look or activity of Fort Tarsus in any way? Like eliminating a threat will cause the townsfolk in Fort Tarsus to be more active. One day we may fly home to work on our Javelins and see a large celebration happening because of our successful mission. Basically, how much will Fort Tarsus change over time for you?
That is the spirit of it, right? And that's what we mean specifically when we say our world, my story. We need to have those places like Fort Tarsus and your Strider where we can display the consequence of your actions. We're still really working and building around exactly what that's going to be and all the different events that are going to happen inside of Tarsus for you. So I'm not going to talk about that at great detail, but that is the spirit of what we're after.
Okay, gotcha. Now this guy from the BSN forums, he knows his stuff here. He's asking, will Anthem have any downtime non-combat mini-games in Fort Tarsus?
Oh, like in the Old Republic.
Exactly.
So TBD, I guess, is the short answer there. There's going to be a lot of activities for you to do in Tarsus, exploring and talking to characters and things like that. Mini games, though, TBD.
Okay. Also, he's wondering, are any of Bioware's past cast of voice actors going to be coming back for Anthem?
You know what? I'm trying to think if we have. I think we have a all brand new cast here.
Really? Oh, that's interesting. Cool. Logan Ryan is wondering, what is the mission structure like? Are there side quests, daily missions, things you can only do with other players or events? If you could discuss the questing at all, that'd be wonderful, he says.
Yeah, it would be wonderful. Yeah. So the short answer, it was Logan, right? The short answer, Logan, is yes. We have those things.
So dailies are in there, everything like that.
Yeah, so you're going to have reasons to come back, and there'll be challenges that crop up on a regular basis, daily and weekly. Missions that are the main mission quests, you bet. Side quests, of course. Repeatable activities, you bet.
Okay, gotcha. I think that's also my biggest question about this game is just like what the flow feels like when you're playing with friends, especially. It's still, I'm wrapping my brain trying to think about like what's it going to be like when I'm playing with my buddies and we're flying back to Fort Tarsus and doing our story content in there. Are we just going to like mute our mics? Or are we just going to have to like sit around and listen to your buddy make some dialogue choices for a while? Like, have you guys, is it at a point where you can test that out to know like how that overall flow with the different loops feels?
Yeah, sure. So the idea is that we don't want to social engineer this experience for you too much, right? We want to leave this up to you and your group to a degree. so that if, you're like, hey, I need to go back to the fort and let's just resupply really quickly and get back out. That's certainly something that you can do. Go talk to the NPC, get a quest, out you go. Easy. Now, if we're playing, and we're kind of two different types of players, though, and I really want to get in there and I want to noodle around for a while and do some exploring, there are other activities that you couldn't go out and do. And we can still be on voice chat if we've done a first-party group, right? And so you're out in the world exploring and just kind of experiencing the world events and things like this. I'm inside of Fort Tarsus, and I'm talking with NPCs, and I'm kind of really nerding out on the lore inside of there. Absolutely, that's something that you can do, and that's really up to you and your group.
Gotcha. Jav Shack here is asking if two teammates are at different progression levels, will a lower leveled player be forced to fight against higher level enemies and be outmatched?
Oh, say that again. I don't know that I followed that.
Okay, so if you're playing co-op with your buddy and you're really high level, he's really low level, can he still play with you? Will he just get crushed out there? How's that going to work?
No. We're going to scale it. You can definitely play together. That's part of the draw, really, of the experience is you can group up with different levels. And one of the ways that you can do it is, even if I'm a high level pilot, I can start. Let's say I haven't collected my interceptor yet, so I could pick up my interceptor. My interceptor is going to have a pretty low gear score, even though my pilot level is high. And so you're level 1 pilot and you've got a brand new XO. I'm a high level pilot and I have a brand new XO. We can still go out and play. I'm going to have a little bit of an edge because I've played more, and we're going to scale some damage and difficulty for you so that it's a rewarding experience for both. But there are lots of different ways to approach this issue and this problem. Okay,
gotcha. Pregian is wondering, how big is the open world of Anthem? And that's another one that I'd imagine it's very tough for you to answer, but
yeah, it is.
What can you say?
And I would say this to everybody, because everyone's kind of wants to know, hey, how big is the world? Is it going to be big enough for me to really explore and enjoy and love it? And the answer to that is yes, but I want you to start thinking about the world of Anthem less as a flat plane with some bumps on it, right? And more like it's a volume. So you take a big open world map, and now you open up the verticality of it up into the sky, down into the water. And just think about how that multiplies the area that you can traverse and the places you can discover. It's a big world.
How soon in the game's development do you guys lock down the scale of the world?
It took us a long time.
Yeah.
We really pushed the ability of Frostbite to handle it. And we just kind of found what we wanted to do was make sure that we could render everything out in beautiful detail and make it a world that is beautiful and realistic and someplace you want to be, and then put awesomely detailed characters and enemies into that. And then we factor in, okay, that feels about right for our world size.
Gotcha. Silvio Roberto says, is it possible to walk on foot without the armor in Anthem's world, like outside of Fort Tarsus?
In the game, no, it's not. In the IP itself and in the world lore, sure, you could do that. It would be extremely dangerous and probably lead to a short lifespan.
So there's never people like running back into Fort Tarsus where as they close the King Kong gates just as they get through, anything like that?
Well, there's going to be some of that, right? But that's not something that really factors into the game.
Okay. Philip Talang is wondering, is there going to be RPG armor like head, shoulders, hands, etc., or is it just standard Javelin with attachments? Like, how broken down is it?
Oh, okay. So 2 answers to that question. From a personalization standpoint, there are different pieces that you can attach to it, and that kind of all factors into the customization and personalization of each suit. As far as the armor capability of the suit itself, like its armor score, armor value, that is pretty much governed by the suit itself and by different perks that you select as a pilot.
So you aren't like attaching different hands, different helmets, anything like that?
You're attaching different pieces to your suit for sure.
Okay.
But they perform a cosmetic function, not a statistical function.
Raiden Prime says, if you get hit badly, are there going to be cosmetic damage on your javelins?
Yeah, you'll see some. You'll see when you're taking damage on your suit. It's not something that we persist as you pick up health packs and repair packs. that will repair itself. So there's not like physical damage that happens to your suit over time.
Okay, so you don't have to go back home to Fort Tarsus and like repair your suit or anything like that?
No.
Okay, you know nerds are going to like that. It's like a good mechanic thing. If you guys ever want to have that option, I think people would be into that. Taking every bullet out of your suit when you get back home. Django.
We tried something like that and it got really tedious, so we'll see.
Yeah. Django23 says, what happens when your teammates go down? Is there a revive system for helping them get back up?
Oh, Django, of course there is.
Oh, little Django.
Of course there is.
Dylan. Oh, Dylan himself here.
Dylan.
So the project was named after him. What type of systems are in place to avoid bullet sponge enemies?
Bullet sponge enemies. So I think that what we're trying to do is really present the players with tactical choice, right? So it's not about just pumping a certain amount of bullets into a character to make them die. It's about selecting the most dangerous targets on the battlefield and eliminating them first. And then you have a variety of means to accomplish that, right? Because we attach all this crazy superheroic gear to your suit. It's not just about your firearm, as we've shown in the demos that we've done, right?
Yeah. Are there sniper rifles in the game? Is what Tavares wants to know.
Right now there are.
There are. Why right now?
There are.
Is it tricky to balance with those, or?
Yeah, it is. It's tricky. Anytime you put a really high damage, long distance weapon into the game, you really have to pay attention to it and balance it correctly.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing right now.
And Aquawolf wants to know the opposite. Are there going to be melee weapons that you can pick up and use?
Each javelin has a melee strike. It's not really bound to a weapon. It's bound to the suit.
DJ Swagger, what's your favorite javelin?
Storm.
Why is that?
It really fits my playstyle really well. I kind of gravitate more towards kind of agile, lighter suits that do a whole ton of damage. So I like it.
There we go.
I like its personality too.
Each suit has its own personality, just like in the
I
aesthetic
think so.
of it. Okay. They don't talk.
You look at it on the screen, and yeah, you'll like that. Yeah, not personality like an AI personality.
Right.
It's personality like a car has personality.
Okay. AZ is wondering, is it true that when you're flying downwards, the heat meter goes down? Also, is there any other ways to keep the meter from heating when you're flying besides going underwater?
Oh, hey. Way to pay attention there. Yes, that's true. When you do dive, it does bring your heat meter down. And then as far as cooling it off, besides flying through or into water, I believe if you get hit with ice damage, that will also cool you down, but it is also damaging.
That's cool. Kyle Domini has a couple questions. Number one, is the forward operating base something that we upgrade over time to achieve certain benefits from?
No, not right now, but we'll see what happens in the future.
Okay, it'd be cool to put some attachments on that big thing. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Also, they're wondering, if I find a weapon that I really like, but it becomes obsolete because of a higher quality level drop, is there a way for us to bring it to our level so we can still use it effectively?
So I mean, chasing after weapons, there will be always levels to the weapon itself. So I guess the answer to your question is no. When a weapon becomes obsolete, you're going to have to go out and find a new version of it.
There we go. Joseph wants to know, another tough question, how long will a playthrough of the campaign be? Can you compare the length of like the main path to any other Bioware games? Have you tested it at this point to see how long it is?
Yeah, so I don't really have a good definitive answer for that because we're still in development. We're still playing with what feels right. I would just say that let's remember that this is a different experience from a single-player RPG, and so it requires different activities. You won't necessarily want a super lengthy campaign. I would say that the campaign is going to be just long enough.
Okay, there we go. Sirimat 000, of course, says, hey, one of my favorite aspects of Mass Effect's multiplayer was unlocking a new character who had a unique set of powers, punches, movement abilities. For example, various characters in the engineer class allowed for a lot of different playstyles and strategies. I'm sure you remember that, John. And then they're wondering, what will we be unlocking while playing Anthem? And will those unlocks give any given type of Javelin as many unique playstyles as it did in the Mass Effect multiplayer?
Okay, so good questions.
Yeah.
So Anthem isn't a kit-based game like Mass Effect 3 multiplayer was, right? So really, instead of it thinking about it in terms of a kit or character kit, you're really you have many, many more options with the type of gear that you put on your Javelin, and that gear's rarity and the properties that you're able to infuse it with. So you can really build your own kits, and it's more about unlocking gear and loot rather than unlocking kits.
There we go. Lionheart says, you recently stated that the long-term goal for players in Anthem would be to upgrade your gear to the point of being legendary. As a former Destiny 2 player that eventually questioned why I needed to watch a number go up one more tick if it did not really affect my play experience, how do you plan to avoid longevity issues plaguing the endgame, and what will make Anthem's loop different in this regard?
Ooh, boy, there's a lot of really good specific questions in there.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to address all of those right now. But what I will say is that we are paying very close attention to that. And I think part of what can make a game really kind of bogged down there at the end is I've acquired the best version of the weapon and I've upgraded it to its best form, and now all I have is kind of an overarching meta number that I'm trying to edge up to min-max my scores. Really, in Anthem, what we're really talking about is, once you get a build that you're feeling really good about, and you've equipped it with all sorts of legendary gear, you have a great suit there. But it's not a static system. There are always different things that you can bring to bear to infuse different properties into those gear items. And the situations are constantly changing. We want you to be constantly tinkering with your suit to deal with different challenges in different situations. So there's always a reason to go in and hunt for something that is going to give you that specific edge. I think that if you look at looters like Diablo 3, that's probably something that resonates a little more strongly.
Okay, I cannot imagine the challenge of sustaining an end game in a game like this. Like, you look around the industry, so many people are making it, from Division to Destiny. We have literally thousands of developers that have been banging their head against a wall for years and years trying to satisfy fans, and then you guys are going marching into that room. What the hell do you do? What do you study? How do you brace for that impact?
It's crazy. You study a lot. We have a staff of really talented designers that are passionate about this and have really studied the matter a lot and played a lot of games that have tried to crack this nut. Are we going to be able to crack it perfectly? Geez, I don't think so. We're going to deliver something, I think, that is compelling and is going to keep you engaged for a long, long time. And then we'll see. We'll see how we do.
Okay, you're not like trying to cushion fans for you'll have a good time, you'll play it for a long time, but you probably won't be able to play it forever. Is there any expectation setting you want to get out of the way here for what the end game will be like? Oh, yeah.
So, look, I mean, really this comes down to the type of player that you are, right? I mean, are you an explorer? And what really makes you happy is finding all the nooks and crannies in the map. That is a finite experience that will eventually run out, right? Are you a story player and all you really want to do is consume the narrative? Then that is also a finite experience that will eventually run out. But if you're the type of player who just really digs that superheroic type experience where you can put on this great javelin suit, fly around, fight enemies, continually become more combat efficient, try new challenges, try to go for that higher level of loot, this is going to keep you engaged for a really long time. Okay.
And you're using Diablo as the best reference point for that?
Yeah, I am. I've logged a shameful number of hours into Diablo 3.
Okay, it's probably good research. It was all worth it, man. Sonic the Restaurant has a similar question, just saying, what is your approach to anticipating a meta where there seems to be a correct way to play the game?
Oh, yeah, right. So this is where I think that one of the strengths of Anthem, where Anthem really lies, is the ability to have a legitimate argument about my build versus your build, whether it's my pilot, where my pilot skills affect all of the javelins that I own, or the specific build of my javelin itself. Is there a correct way to play the game? Is there an uber build? I think that people will have different uber builds, and they will have passionate arguments about it, and they will both be right.
Okay, the Anthem Reddit won't just be like, go for this build, you idiots, move on.
Well, I'm sure that there'll be those people, and then there will be people who come back to that and say, no, you're clearly out of your mind.
Okay, good. Look forward to arguments on the internet, everybody.
Yes.
Jacques Walker is asking, are there going to be raids?
So we're going to talk about our end game activities later, but I think that you'll be happy with what we talk about.
And that's different from Strongholds?
Yes, that is different from Strongholds.
Interesting. Brian Wagner, why doesn't Anthem have PvP? Is there a good reason why it doesn't?
Sure, there's lots of good reasons. What we really wanted to create was a cooperative experience at its heart. And, having the ability to give our players these crazy weapons and crazy pieces of gear with insane power levels is really the experience that we wanted to bring. And when you're PvP, you really got to flatten down those power curves so that it's really a game of skill and not a game of my mortar's bigger than your mortar.
Yeah. Zach Anasty is wondering how much you can customize the HUD. Can you turn off like the hit points? Can you turn off a lot of little odds and ends along the way?
Yeah, we're still working on all of the options, of course. But yes, the HUD will be customizable.
Cool. Nathan Keeling, friend of the show, says, well, will I be able to enjoy the game if I have an empty friends list?
Yes, Nathan. In fact, we have delivered some really cool features just for you. So if you, let's say that you're a person who has just bought their very first PlayStation or Xbox, and Anthem is the very first game they've bought, right?
Yeah.
That is still going to be, we have systems in place and things to help out so that is still going to be a really enriching and cool social experience for you.
Because you just like encounter other players in the world, then it will like give you a prompt of, do you want to team up?
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about this, where we've taken our social experience and really built it into the world map itself, so that it's always easy to find other people who are playing and doing activities that you want to do. And we've tried our very best to remove a lot of the awkwardness out of social interactions. So, hopefully people will just be able to dive in and play with other people and have a great time.
Okay. Crystal Keyframes, will you consider adding an offline mode post-launch?
No, we will not.
That's like baked into the core of the game.
Yeah, the core of the game is the dynamic world, and how we do that is by hosting every game on a dedicated server. And we believe that is what really brings a very special quality to the game and to the world. And so, Anthem is an online game.
There it is. JavShack80. Killer question. Will we see any crossover from Titanfall? Is there ever going to be a collaboration between you and Respawn? You're so close.
I will never say never.
Okay.
I will say that is not on the books right now, but I will never say never.
Is it tough to like figure out how much you can bend the rules? Like you want to have some cool javelins out there, but I don't know if you want to break the lore of Anthem's world by having the KFC javelin running around the world and all that stuff, right?
Well, that would be kind of like a chicken suit. You got a helmet with a little comb on the top.
Dude, year
right?
4 of Anthem, yeah, it's happening.
I think that really we take our world building pretty seriously here, but you can't take yourself too seriously. It's all about having fun, and so while we want to make sure that we're creating a very consistent and cool experience for people to enjoy, let's not take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah, there we go.
Let's have some fun.
There we go. Cameron Blackwell. If only a few months after Andromeda's release, you disclosed that the team would no longer be releasing updates or patches for the campaign, how can fans or consumers not feel worried that you'll have the same approach on this project?
So I guess really the only thing I can say about that, I wasn't involved in the Andromeda project. But what I will say is that Anthem is a very different type of game with a very different elder game component to it. And that's what the game is about, is continuing to play it and engage with it over a long period of time, as opposed to a more traditional single-player RPG.
So you understand, though, why fans might be concerned? It's like, well, your last project you guys abandoned so quickly.
Yeah, of course. And, I think that it's our obligation not just to kind of hand wave that away or say, well, trust us. our obligation is to earn that, day by day, and that is our intention.
Yeah. How much of the Andromeda team moved over to Anthem?
A big part of the Andromeda team did.
Oh, cool. Is Mac Walters, the creative director, working on Anthem?
Yeah, Mac Walters is working on a lot of our IP stuff for us.
IP, like an overview IP type of role?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, cool. So he's giving input to Anthem.
Mac works with a lot of the stuff that's coming out of like Dark Horse Comics and things like that.
Oh, interesting. Does he have a title?
Mm-hmm. I believe he is known as Grand Vizier, Grand Poobah, something.
Okay, like something big,
something huge. I think honestly, Mac, don't be mad. His actual title is creative director
for the studio.
I think for the project that he's on.
Oh, okay. One specific project.
Yeah. I think Mac is primarily working on Anthem.
Okay.
But yeah, he's got kind of an overarching role right now.
Interesting. CKGD says, did you learn anything from Destiny's mistakes, and what was it? We touched on this a little bit before, but also a lot of people are making Warframe comparisons. Do you guys have just documents somewhere on some Google Drive of its just pros and cons of all competition?
Well, you know what? This is what I'll say about that. When your job is a professional game developer, part of that job is to pay attention to what's going on in the marketplace and what people like and what's fun and why is it fun. So understanding that and having a real passion for it is, I think, important. And of course we have that.
All right, John, picking up again, we had to cut because your phone died, but we've got a different location. Anthony and also Whiskey here are just wondering, when are we going to get to see more gameplay? Do you have a timeline in mind, especially for the Interceptor? People really want to see what that thing can do.
I know, I was going to say absolutely, yeah.
I got away from it.
I caught myself, yeah. So we're going to be showing more, it'll be in the fall, late summer, let's say. And we'll be talking more about the Interceptor then. Okay. Don't have a specific date though.
Gotcha. And Supersonic here, great name, is just asking, hey, will this game be good? Are you guys feeling good about this?
Yes, absolutely. In all fairness, in all seriousness, I'm having a blast playing this game, as are everyone here at the studio. And when people got their hands on it at E3. They also had a great time with it. I think that this is a special game that you're going to love.
Yeah, and you're feeling good about that release date?
I am.
Okay, all right. Any misconceptions you want to clear up? Anything else from the month of coverage, cover story, anything? This is your chance, man.
This is my chance to clear up any misconceptions?
Yeah.
I'm actually much taller in person than I am.
Flowing locks as well.
I'd like to get that cleared right up.
Okay, so not much out there. You don't read the forums and say, like, God, I wish they understood this.
Well, I think that, honestly, I could probably talk forever trying to explain what Anthem is and what that experience is going to be like and why it's not just a clone of one of our competitors or something like this. But honestly, the proof is in the pudding. Talk is cheap, and I can talk all I want, but getting your hands on the controller and playing it, that's going to be the thing that sells you on it and let you understand why it's so special.
Sounds like a beta to me.
Yeah, baby.
All right, cool. John Warner, thank you so much for your time, man. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
And that's it for this episode of the Game Informer Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this special edition. Reminder, we're here with a regular episode every Thursday where we talk about games we reviewed, exclusive impressions from cover story trips, everything under the sun. Be sure to tune in next week where we reveal our next cover story and do this whole thing again every month. It's a rotation that ends with a Skype interview like this, where hopefully you guys got some answers. If you liked it, we'd love nothing more than if you shared it with a friend, if you sent them a link to the iTunes, subscribe to the audio version, or watch the video version, whichever way you like. But anyway, thanks so much for watching or listening, and we'll see you on Thursday for the next proper episode of the Game Informer Show. Bye, everybody.